This video presentation will analyse aid and development from an international perspective, and we'll start by explaining what aid and development actually is. Aid is simply defined as any form of needed assistance by one country or multicultural institution to another, and development looks at what issues need tackling to build a safe, healthy and prosperous world for people to live in, from combating poverty, disease, mass migration, insecurity and conflict. In 2000, the UN set 8 targets in relation to international development. These were referred to as the Millennium Development Goals and were to be achieved by 2015. The first objective within the Millennium Development Goals was to eradicate extreme poverty and hunger. In 1990, figures showed that 47% of the developing world earned less than $1.25 per day. According to the UN's reports, by 2014, this number had been reduced down to 14%. The second objective focused on ensuring all boys and girls completed primary school education. In 2000, there were 100 million children out of school, and by 2015 this had been reduced to 57 million. The third objective was to promote gender equality and empower women. In Southeast Asia, in 2000, there were 73 girls for every 100 boys in schools. By 2015, girls had overtaken boys, and there were 103 girls for every 100 boys. The fourth objective was to reduce child mortality rates by 2/3. In 1990, there were 12.7 million deaths recorded, and by 2015, this had reduced by over half to 6 million, despite birth rates increasing. The fifth objective was to reduce maternal mortality rates by 3/4 and ensure universal access to reproductive health. In 2000, there were 330 deaths per 100,000 live births, and in 2015 this number had been reduced to 210. The sixth objective was to focus on tackling serious diseases, particularly focusing on HIV and AIDS. Figures showed that new HIV infections fell by 40% between 1995 and 2013. Number 7 was to ensure environmental sustainability. This was through integrating principles of sustainable development into governmental programmes, reducing biodiversity loss and halving the proportion of people without access to safe drinking water and basic sanitation. The final objective was to develop a global partnership for development. During this period, the UK was one of 5 countries which exceeded the UN's target of 0.7% of gross national income to go towards international aid. At first glance, the UN's report seems to show considerable progress since the Millennium Development Goals, but being more critical of the data has allowed me to see otherwise. Most of the figures are compared to 1990, which doesn't allow us to see the real impact the MDGs had. Also, the measurable targets have often not been met. For example, Target 4 focused on reducing child mortality by 2/3. The report stated this had dropped 50% since 1990. Number 3 was focused on eliminating gender disparity in primary and secondary education. The report produced facts such as 90% of countries now have more female members in Parliament. Although positive, isn't directly relevant to the original objective. The 0.7% of gross national income target seems to suggest the token-like gesture provided by developed countries. This figure also suggests that non-governmental organisations have probably been more influential in providing aid and influencing development overseas. Although the UN's report focuses on the positives from the Millennium Development Goals, the UN recognise that there is still considerable work to do and have recently announced the Sustainable Development Goals. These are made up from 17 specific targets which are to be achieved by 2030.
Created using Powtoon.